Welcome. Helm appreciates your participation in the webinar Dual Control Policy in China, presented by Vicky Tan, Product Manager from Helm China.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in today's webinar about dual control policy in China. We'll hear Vicky talking about this topic. She's an expert. And I also have here my colleague with me, Nancy Rodriguez from Helm Mexico. And today we'll understand how does this will impact you. So, Vicky, what is the dual energy policy and what does it measure? I mean, when we've done this poll in our LinkedIn, we discovered that people are not sure when this policy was initiated. Can you also talk a little bit about this?
Hello, everyone. First, I'm really happy to share something about the policy from China side. It's true. For some overseas customers, they may heard about this policy during the past cooperation with the Chinese partners here. But for some overseas customers, it seems like their first time to heard about this policy in this year because there were so many problems caused by the policy from China's side, such as the delay shipments, the price up. So this policy caused a lot of confusion to them. But actually for this policy, it was emerged in China in 2015 by the government. And its full name is Double Control Action of Total Energy Consumption and the Intensity. These two aspects to be measured.
So it means that the majority was correct. They answered 2015.
Yes.
Hello, colleagues. Thank you very much, Teresa and Vicky. It's really a pleasure to be part of this webinar. By the way, very relevant webinar, especially in these days. But Vicky, what is the target for this policy?
As I just talked about, this is a country policy. It is a long-term policy, so the targets is fixed for different period. We can take example for the first 5 years since 2015 to 2020. There are two targets included. One is total energy consumption didn't pass the target 5 billion tons of the coal. And the other one is the energy consumption per GDP in 2020 needed to be 15% lower than the number of 2015. We can see some details by those charts. On the top left column, this chart reviewed the steady increase trend for the total energy consumption of the coal. And we can see that in the first 5 years, there was increasing for the consumption. If we calculated, we found that the increasing rate for the coal consumption was around 16%. Below the chart of coal, it was the GDP in the first 5 years of China. And as we can see from the chart, it reviewed very clear, gradually increase for the GDP in the first 5 years, but the increasing rate for the GDP was much higher than the consumption of the coal because the increasing rate was higher, more than 50%. So in 2020, the total energy consumption of the coal achieved the target. And for the other target of the energy consumption per GDP, we can check the details by the chart right side. From the chart, we could see the trend of the decrease in the first 5 years. And if we calculated, we found that the decreasing rate was more than the target 15%, because the result was around 23%. So for the government to 2020, both targets have been achieved. And besides the first 5 years, actually there are so many other targets for the future. For example, for 2025, the government decided to reduce energy consumption per unit of GDP by 30.5% respectively in 2025 compared with 2020. And even in the near future, then from 2030 to 2060, at the United Nations General Assembly, in September of last year, our President Xi Jinping announced that China aims to peak the emission of the carbon emission in 2030 and the carbon neutrality by 2060. So this is firmly provides a clear and long-term signal for all the actors in China to start a great action to accelerate decarbonization in the future. So those are the those are the targets for this policy in different period.
Thank you, Vicky. I see that the government has very ambitious targets and it will probably meet them in the future as they have just met from 2015 to 2020. So other question that I have for you is what is the purpose of this policy? I mean, what does the government expect to achieve with this?
Talk about the purpose, because this is a government policy. So I think there are so many purpose from the government side. I only talk about some aspect from my own opinion, such as this policy can proactively adjust the investment structure to avoid excess capacity. And it can help to strengthen the construction of ecological civilization. Also, it can help to accelerate the promotion of green and low carbon development. It also can help to strengthen the efficient utilization of energy resources. Also, I think in the end, it also can help to achieve peak carbon emissions and the carbon neutralizations. In the end, like the government set the goal in the end. This is all the purpose I can imagine.
And Vicky, why China government took such a strict power and production restriction? You have already inform us and explain us a little bit in your opinion, what's the purpose, but why the government took such strict power and power restriction in September 2021 only, and the product cost increased sharply, really?
Yes, I could understand that this kind of sudden and strict restriction caused a lot of confusion for our overseas customers. But I think not only the confusion, but also a lot of problems like the delay shipments, the price up, and also the contract fulfillment problem. So in order to explain the reasons, I want to talk about the three aspects to explain the why. First, I want to talk about the target achievements by the local government. Because we see that this policy has the targets for different period. So the local government needs to achieve the targets by the government, by the country. So the local government inspect the performance each quarter to ensure the result can 100% achieve the country target. Here we give some examples. For the table on the left side, we could see there were the results for Q1 and H1 of this year for different province. The government inspected the local performance and they gave them 3 warnings in 3 colors. The red one yellow one, and the green one. And for the red color, it means the level 1 warning. That showed the situation was really serious and the target not achieved. And the gap between the target with the result is more than 10%. And for the yellow one, it showed that the situation is relatively serious, the target not achieved, and the gap between the target with the result is less than 10%. So only the green one showed that the situation running smoothly and the target achieved. So besides the different color, different warning level, we could find another situation that is the result actually changed from Q1 to H1. We could see there are more red warning happened, especially for the first few province in the table, like the Qinghai, Ningxia, Guangxi, Guangdong, Fujian, Xinjiang province. For those province, they got more red warnings in the middle of the year. So for their local government, they need to take some actions to make sure the result in 2021 could meet the government requirement. It's more like the KPI. We're in the company. We also need to finish the KPI. So all the local government need to take some actions. Actually, we put the details for each province, each local government actions by the table on the right side. We can take an example as Ningxia. As Ningxia got 2 red warning in the middle of this year, so the local government decided to have 1 month shutdown for all the high energy consuming factories. So that's why we got different information from different suppliers from China side, because they are in different locations. The local government has different levels of the actions. So this is the first part to explain why the government has such a strict and sudden restriction in China. The next part I want to talk is about the energy and the coal cost, which caused this sudden and strict restriction. Actually, in China this year, especially in the first half year, there was energy shortage, and the energy shortage caused by the higher demand of the energy and also the higher cost of the energy. The higher demand energy caused by the industry and also the residence side. For the industry side, we checked the export statistics, and we found that in the first half year, the export amount from China increased around 40% compared to last year. So because of the pandemic, all the orders were coming to China. So all those orders need to be produced in China. And for the residence side, due to the popularity of the electricity car by the young generation, there has a bigger and larger demand for the electricity. And regarding the energy cost increasing, the main problem is the coal. And we can check the details by the right chart. From the chart, the price of the coal in China this year increased a lot compared with the Q3's price with the beginning of this year, the price even 4 times. So it was really a difficult and tough time for the power plant, because the more the real output they have, the more money they were losing. So that's why there was a shortage for the energy there. But we can see from line, the coal price dropped step by step in these days in Q4. That's because the government issued some relative policies to make sure the whole country have a stable energy supply. So now the coal price is getting back. So now this is the part 2 to explain why there was a strict certain restriction from the energy side. And the last part I want to share is the risk control and the advocacy from the government. As I just mentioned, in the first half year, China export volume increased more than 40%. So it seems like many factories, many suppliers were fully occupied for the orders for this year, or even some factories are fully occupied for next year. And not only that, but also the price. The contract price seems higher than before. But this is just on the surface. Behind of that, all the manufacturers are facing very uncontrollable cost increasing, including the operation cost, the shipping cost, the operation cost, including like the energy cost increasing, what we are talking just now, and also the higher raw materials cost, because most raw materials the suppliers need to import it from the overseas as well. And regarding the higher shipping cost, I think most overseas customers have been aware of this trend since the pandemic. And there were not enough workers at the port, and there were not enough vessels from China to overseas. So this caused the higher shipping cost. So under this uncontrollable increasing cost for the suppliers, for the manufacturers here, I think this kind of restriction from the government is a kind of a protection for the manufacturers here from the government side. And also this kind of strict restriction firmly approve that the government doesn't encourage blind expansion of primary production capacity. The government actually encouraged the factories to do more industrial upgrading and more sustainable and green production in the future. So after my explanation from these 3 aspects, one is the KPI pressure, and second is the energy and the coal cost. Last is the risk control and the government advocacy. Hope it can help you to understand the reasons why suddenly the China government made such kind of tough actions.
Sure, Vicky. Now it's very clear to understand why the government took these actions. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
What are the industries that were more affected by this policy?
As I explained that this policy measured in 2 aspects. One is the consumption. The other one is the identity. So we analyzed these 2 aspects and we got some conclusion for the industry which will be seriously affected by the policy, such as the iron and the steel, long ferrous metals, petrochemicals, chemical fiber, paper making, building materials, those are the conclusions we're analyzed. And luckily, our farmer business is not involved there.
But Vicky, coming back exactly to our pharma business, how did you see the impact? Do you have some examples about this topic, about the pharma industry specifically?
Yes, I'm glad to share some examples to show the impact caused by the policy to our business. For example, the first example I took here is paracetamol with its key raw materials PAP. There are 4 PAP manufacturers in China. Anhui Bayi new site is still under construction for their own API use. For 2 of other sites, the production is irregular and the capacity is very limited, caused by the double control policy. And the 4th one is only producing for their own use, caused by the pandemic. The paracetamol demand is still increasing in the market. So for these reasons, the PAP price continues to increase sharply while the quantities continue to decrease. So from the China supply side, we highly suggest our customer to plan your purchase earlier, at least around 3 months, to make sure the stable supply and the shipments. And
Vicky, sorry to interrupt you, but PAP is actually the key starting material, right, of paracetamol?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Besides the paracetamol, we took another example. Yeah, the azithromycin and its raw materials, so azithromycin salicylate. We have 2 main manufacturers of azithromycin salicylate, which covered around 50% of the market share, have suspended their production and limited their capacity, as they are both located in areas which failed to achieve the first semester's target of dual control policy. They were located in Xinjiang and Ningxia. So for this reason, the supply will be tight and the shortage is expected to continue till the first half year of 2022. So from those 2 examples, I think you could understand, even we are lucky, not greatly affected compared to those industries we are talking about just now, but we are still affected by the policy.
Yeah, with these examples, it was more clear to see the impact of some in some APIs. Vic, I have one last question for you from my side. Regarding the future of China, how do you think that will continue to impact in the future this policy?
Regarding the consequence caused by the policy in the future, it's like the old saying that one coin has 2 sides. So I want to explain the consequence in 2 aspects, the positive and negative way. For the positive side, I'm sure China will reduce dependence on traditional energy like the coal, and China will expand the proportion of clean energy. And China will have more valuable business. And back to our farmer business, maybe in the future there will be more new API, valuable API, and a one-stop service from the patented API to CMO, and even some finished farmer products. And also in China, I believe that there will be more sustainable and green production in the future. But for the negative side, I think that those kind of sudden and restrictions will not happen just this year. So maybe in the following years, caused by the policy, there will be same actions happen in the future. So that caused the price in China will be more difficult to predict and unstable. And for the long-term consideration, I think that the low-value products will move out of China to other countries, because the government has those kind of target the energy consumption per GDP. They want to decrease, which means they need less energy consumption, but more GDP.
Nancy, you're mute.
Thank you. Very interesting, Vicky. And one last question from my side, but not last but not least. In your opinion, what can we do together to take advantage of this dual control policy instead of being affected?
Well, I really appreciate this question, because I think this is the most concern and the answer that the overseas customer want to know. From my point of view, I want to give my suggestions, such as reassess their stock and the planning, bring your plan forward to secure the supply, and place your orders earlier than before to assure the delivery. But besides these suggestions, I really highly suggest that two important points. One is fast reaction upon the market change notice from our company HEM or your suppliers. And second, work with the strategy and professional partners for business in China. And finally, as our company slogan saying, together we make it. So we do believe we could face all those challenges, those changes together, and to make it better, or even we can develop together for some more sustainable, more green, more valuable new business opportunity here from China market together in the near future. This is what my suggestion.
Thank you so much, Vicky, and really appreciate very much you share with all of us all your knowledge and all your experience in the China market. I'm pretty sure it will be very helpful for our customers. And thank you, colleagues. Thank you for joining us. See you in our next webinar, and stay healthy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.